In the beginning, when the world was still young and fresh, two brothers were born to Adam and Eve, the first humans to walk the earth. These brothers, Cain and Abel, would become the focal point of one of humanity's earliest tragedies. Their story, filled with envy, choices, and consequences, is one that resonates through the ages, reminding us of the fragile line between love and hatred, between creation and destruction. Cain, the firstborn, was a tiller of the soil. His hands were strong, hardened by the labor of coaxing life from the ground. He would rise with the sun, turning the soil with dedication and pride, planting seeds and nurturing the earth's fruits. The land under his care would produce crops, grains and vegetables that sustained his family. Cain took pride in his work. He saw himself as the provider, the one responsible for feeding those around him. But beneath this pride, there lay a silent yearning for approval, for the love and acceptance he so desperately sought, not only from his family, but from the Creator himself. Abel, on the other hand, was different. He was the younger brother, and from a young age, he found his purpose in tending flocks. Abel was a shepherd, leading his sheep to green pastures, caring for them with gentleness and compassion. His bond with the animals was deep. He saw their lives as fragile gifts from the Creator, and he treated them with a reverence that mirrored his relationship with God. Abel's heart was humble, his spirit peaceful. He sought no recognition, no glory, only to live in harmony with nature and to offer his best to the one who had given him life. The two brothers, though different in their paths, lived side by side, working the land and caring for the creatures of the earth. But as time passed, their inner worlds began to diverge, leading them toward a fateful day that would change their lives forever. In those days, it was custom to offer sacrifices to God as a way of showing gratitude for the blessings received. The offering was a sign of devotion, a way to acknowledge that all good things came from the Creator. Both Cain and Abel prepared their offerings, each according to their own labor. Cain gathered the fruits of his fields, the crops he had worked so hard to cultivate. Abel, in turn, selected the finest and firstborn of his flock, the unblemished lambs that symbolized his deep respect and gratitude toward God. The moment came for the brothers to present their offerings. The air was thick with anticipation as Cain laid his fruits before the altar, the produce of his labor. His hands trembled slightly as he looked toward the heavens, seeking the Lord's favor. Abel too approached, laying his lambs upon the altar with quiet reverence, his heart full of gratitude and humility. As the smoke of the offerings rose to the heavens, the eyes of God turned toward his creation. He looked upon Abel's sacrifice and was pleased. Abel's offering was given with sincerity, with a heart full of devotion and love. It wasn't just the lambs that God accepted. It was Abel's spirit of humility, his acknowledgement of the Creator's greatness and his own smallness in the grand design. But when the Lord looked upon Cain's offering, it did not find the same favor. It wasn't the offering itself that displeased the Creator. It was the heart behind it. Cain had given the fruits of his labor, yes, but he had given them with a heart clouded by pride, by the expectation of reward, rather than out of genuine love and gratitude. God saw this, for he looks not only at the gifts we bring, but at the spirit with which we offer them. Cain felt the weight of the Lord's rejection like a crushing blow. His face darkened, and his heart became heavy with anger and resentment. The rejection of his offering stung him deeply, not because of the loss of favor, but because it was Abel who had been accepted. The seed of envy had been planted, and with each passing moment, it grew stronger, fueled by the bitterness of his heart. Seeing the storm brewing within Cain, the Lord, in his infinite wisdom, spoke to him. "Why are you angry, Cain? Why is your face downcast? If you do what is right, will you not be accepted? But if you do not, sin is crouching at your door. It desires to have you, but you must rule over it." The Lord's words were both a warning and an invitation, a reminder that Cain had the power to choose his path. Sin, like a wild beast, was waiting to devour him, but Cain had the ability to resist. Yet instead of heeding the warning, Cain allowed his jealousy and anger to fester. He brooded over the rejection, replaying the scene in his mind, his heart growing darker with each passing day. The tension between the brothers grew. Though Abel was unaware of the depth of Cain's inner turmoil, Cain could no longer see his brother as family. To him, Abel had become the embodiment of his own failure, the living reminder that he had been rejected while Abel had been embraced. The resentment turned to hatred, and hatred turned into a deadly resolve. One day while they were in the field, Cain approached Abel. His mind was clouded with rage, his heart consumed by the darkness he had nurtured within. "Come, let us go out to the field," Cain said, masking his true intentions. Abel, unsuspecting and trusting, followed his brother, unaware of the storm that was about to break. And there, in the quiet of the field, away from the eyes of their parents and the world, Cain unleashed his fury. In a single violent act, he struck down Abel, his own flesh and blood. The earth, which Cain had once nurtured, now drank the blood of his innocent brother. Abel's lifeless body lay on the ground, the first human death, not by accident or disease, but by the hands of a brother. It was a moment that forever changed the course of human history, a moment that introduced violence and murder into the world, a stain that could never be erased. As Abel's blood soaked into the ground, the earth itself cried out to the heavens. The silence of the field was broken by the voice of God, who called out to Cain. "Where is your brother Abel?" the Lord asked. Cain, filled with guilt but too proud to admit his crime, responded with a lie. "I don't know," he said. "Am I my brother's keeper?" But the Lord knew the truth. He could hear the cry of Abel's blood from the ground, a cry for justice, a cry for the innocent life that had been taken. "What have you done?" God's voice thundered. "Listen, your brother's blood cries out to me from the ground. Now you are under a curse and driven from the ground, which has opened its mouth to receive your brother's blood from your hand." The ground that Cain had once worked with pride would now reject him. No longer would the earth yield its crops for him. He would be a wanderer, a restless fugitive upon the earth, cursed to live with the weight of his crime for the rest of his days. Cain's heart sank with the realization of the punishment that awaited him. His sin had not only destroyed his brother's life, but had shattered his own future. In desperation, Cain cried out to the Lord, "My punishment is more than I can bear. Today you are driving me from the land, and I will be hidden from your presence. I will be a restless wanderer on the earth, and whoever finds me will kill me." Yet even in his judgment, God showed mercy. He placed a mark upon Cain, a sign of protection, so that no one would kill him as he wandered the earth. It was a strange mercy, a life spared but burdened by the weight of guilt. Cain's life would be marked not only by the murder of his brother, but by the curse that followed him wherever he went. Cain left the presence of the Lord and settled in the land of Nod, east of Eden. He built cities and had children, but the legacy of his crime haunted him. His story became a warning to future generations about the destructive power of envy, anger, and unchecked desire. As for Abel, though his life was cut short, his sacrifice and devotion remained a lasting testimony of what it means to offer one's best to God. His legacy endured, not in descendants or worldly achievements, but in the example of a heart that sought to honor the Creator above all else. The story of Cain and Abel is not just a tale of two brothers. It is a reflection of the human condition. It speaks to the choices we face each day, the battle between good and evil that rages within each of us. It reminds us that sin, like a predator, is always crouching at our door, waiting for the moment to strike. But it also reminds us that we have the power to choose, to master our desires, to reject envy, and to seek a life of humility and love. In the end, the question remains, when we face our own moments of anger and jealousy, will we allow them to consume us, or will we, like Abel, offer the best of ourselves, trusting in the goodness of God? The choice, as it was for Cain, is ours to make.